Welcome everyone. Welcome everyone. Welcome everyone to another Ref Brandon and the Todd family YouTube video. Wherever you are, whatever you may be doing, thank you so much for making Ref Brandon and the Todd family a part of your day. We always greatly appreciate it. Before I give you some high school football scores from last night from all around the state of Georgia and the upstate of South Carolina, I hope for all you college football fans that you enjoyed the Friday night game last night between Houston and Memphis. I know I mentioned in yesterday's video that I thought it'd be a good game, and it was. It didn't look like it was going to be because the first three quarters, Houston did absolutely nothing offensively. And after three, Memphis was ahead 20-7. Houston puts up 26 points in the fourth quarter to win the game 33-32. But on to some high school football scores. Milton defeated South Forsyth by the score of 35-28. Lambert defeats Forsyth Central 40-14. North Forsyth defeats Lanier 21-7. East Forsyth defeats Cherokee Bluff 14-7. Wesleyan defeats White County 22-17. Elbert County remains undefeated. They defeat Whitefield 35-24. Madison County defeats North Hall 33-24. Walnut Grove defeats East Hall by the score of 35-8. Winder Barrow defeats Flowery Branch 20-17. Rabun County defeats St. Francis 17-14. Commerce in overtime defeats Social Circle 24-21. Loganville defeats Clark Central 28-13. Monroe area all over Hebron Christian 41-7. Oconee County defeats Hart County 31-14. Stevens County defeats Franklin County 63-0. North Oconee defeats Cedar Shoals 55-12. And I wrote this game down just because I'm curious, without looking, if anybody knew that there was a high school called Baylor. Of course, we know there's the college team in Waco, Texas, the Baylor Bears, but this is the Baylor high school team. They lost to Prince Avenue Christian 42-35. I just thought that was interesting, and I'm just curious if anybody knew that there was a high school called Baylor before I just told you there was a high school called Baylor. But that is some scores from the state of Georgia and some scores from the upstate of South Carolina. A lot of good games last night in the state of South Carolina. In the upstate, Burns defeats Boiling Springs by the score of 30-7. And the biggest blowout, not only of the week, but one of the biggest blowouts you'll see, Greenville defeated Berea by the score of 85-0. T.L. Hanna in overtime defeats J.L. Mann 48-42. Travelers Rest defeats Carolina 35-3. Daniel all over West Oak 76-0. In overtime, Gaffney defeats Spartanburg 26-20. Greenwood defeats Easley 47-41. Landrum defeats 96-45-31. Dorman defeats Malden by 1 point, 13-12. Riverside defeats Laurens by a field goal, 17-14. Woodruff defeats Emerald, 35-28. And Walhalla defeats Crescent. And it was the same exact score from Thursday night football in the NFL when the Colts beat the Broncos 12-9. Last night, Walhalla beat Crescent 12-9. That's just a few scores from the upstate of South Carolina and all across the state of Georgia from last night as we get closer and closer and closer to the high school football playoffs now that we have reached the month of October. Most teams have played 7 games. Of course, there's 10 games in the regular season in high school football, so won't be long until we reach the playoffs in high school football. I encourage you, if you have not yet done it, to go back and watch my video I posted late last night where I gave a few thoughts about Jimbo Fisher and Nick Saban as that game kicks off tonight shortly after 8 o'clock. I hope for everybody's sake that watches the game that the game will be close. But 2 years ago, Bama defeated A&M 52-24. I'm not saying tonight's game is going to be high scoring like that, but Bama won that game by 28. Don't be surprised if they win tonight by 24, 25, 26 points, only because A&M can't throw a forward pass. I don't care which one of their 14 quarterbacks plays. I don't care if all 14 quarterbacks play. A&M cannot throw a forward pass for whatever reason. Jimbo Fisher is so prehistoric that I believe he has one of those Flintstone cars where he has to use his feet to move because he has not quite yet figured out that we now have buttons and keys that make your car run because he's prehistoric and way behind. If you have not heard, Wofford fired their football coach earlier this week. It's a surprise because Wofford is flat out terrible. But Wofford used to be, for the longest time, one of the top teams in what used to be 1AA football. Now it's called FCS, but they ran the option for years, and that was good for them because it's a really, really, really small school in Spartanburg, South Carolina. They're in the Southern Conference, the same conference as Furman and teams like that. And Mike Ayers was their coach for a long time, and he ran the option. And they were a top 10 team in FCS for many years, made the playoffs most years. But when Mike Ayers retired a few years back, they decided they were going to try to become modernized on offense and start running the spread like everybody else does, and it has not worked. They need to go back to being different, being unique, and running the option because they're flat out terrible. So Wofford is another team looking for a new head coach. Of course, Nebraska won last night as well in one of the smaller college games from Friday night. They're now back to 500 on the season, and they now have 2 wins without Scott Frost. So maybe everybody that had that rumor going that said Scott Frost is just flat out stupid, maybe that's actually the truth, and it wasn't just something somebody was saying. There was actually some truth to it because Nebraska does look a lot better on both sides of the ball already since he has been fired. Any thoughts on any of this, please feel free to let me know. Let's go ahead and get our dad joke of the day in here. I asked my wife when her birthday was, and she said March 1st. So I walked around the room and asked her again. And that wraps it up for today's Ref Brandon and the Todd Family YouTube video. Until next time, it's Ref Brandon saying, just like in pro wrestling, life can be over by the count of 3. Tell your friends and family how much you love them. Bye.